Chapter 30, Air Brake Foundation Systems and Air Brake Circuits. Day 3, Video 6, Slack Adjusters. Okay, so the slack adjuster is the linkage between the S-cams of the foundation brake and the brake chambers, right? As the rod pushes through the brake chamber, is attached to the slack adjuster. So it provides some additional leverage to apply the brakes. Right? So the movement of that slack adjuster as it's being pushed out by the piston of the brake chamber acts on the S-cam, forces the brake shoes apart into the drum, creating the friction, creating the heat, causing brakes to work. All right. So here's a visual of the slack adjuster. So we've got a manual slack adjuster and an automatic slack adjuster. Right. So again, we've got the holes here where the clevis would hook up to that's attached to the push rod of the brake chamber. And then here's where the S-cam would spline, engage these splines on the slack adjuster. So manual slack adjuster, automatic slack adjuster. On the manual, so what we mean by slack, all right, is the brakes wear away. The friction material is eroded away during normal braking action, right? So we need to have a way to compensate for that or adjust for that. So that's what we call the slack adjuster does that. On a hydraulic brake system, we've got adjusters, internal adjusters in there that compensate for that. We have to do the same with our air brake system. So a manual slack adjuster, manual being a technician has to get under there and physically adjust up to compensate for wear in the brake shoes. So right here we've got where the adjuster is at. We've got a hex head here, and here's a spring-loaded sliding collar. So as he puts his 9/16 wrench on this hex head here, he will push down, this collar will retract and release that hex, able to adjust for it. So then he would take his wrench and turn it clockwise there to take up or internally cause this the spline here to rotate internally and take up or adjust for that slack or the wear in the brakes. Automatic slack adjuster right here, and I'll show you here in a minute. We've got a push rod here that will move up and down and compensate for any wear. It realizes that once this rod has moved a certain amount, it will actuate the adjuster inside here and continually do that. So it is automatically, just through the application of the braking, releasing, and applying, it senses the slack or the amount of wear in the brake shoes and then automatically adjusts for that. So here's the manual slack adjuster, the collar I was talking about, and then the hex adjustment here compresses that, and that turns inside here. So we've got a worm gear working against the gear that's splined against the S-cam to rotate and compensate for any wear. Again, this is the manual slack adjuster. One thing to note is we want to make sure that when we have a full brake application that we've got this angle between our slack adjuster and the push rod of the brake chamber at a 90-degree angle where the brakes are fully applied. That way we get the most torque or most mechanical advantage out of that slack adjuster by having that happen. The further away we get from 90 degrees, the lower the brake torque or the torque that we put on this slack adjuster to apply the brakes. Again, manual slack adjuster, technician under here manually compensating for the wear. Automatic slack adjuster, here's that push rod here, a little bit different visually looking at that slack adjuster. Still does the same thing of applying and releasing the brakes, but just it compensates for wear internally. So we got the actuator rod here, so as that brake is applied and released, this actuator rod is going to pull up and push down. And we've got a ratcheting system in here that if we get enough movement, all right, that ratchet will skip to the next tooth, right, and adjust up, right? So as the shoes wear away, this slack adjuster is going to have a little bit more movement that will register in this rod moving up a little bit further. The ratchet or the adjuster inside here moves enough to where it gets another tooth on the adjuster and compensates for that wear. And then here's the worm gear and the gear on the slack adjuster itself that compensates for that. So on a automatic slack adjuster, if everything is right, we the technician should only have to adjust the slack adjuster when we've done maintenance to the system. We've pulled it apart, we put new brake shoes and brake drums on it. Putting it back together, we will adjust the slack adjuster once, and that should be the only time. If we are continually having to adjust that slack adjuster, something is wrong. Either there's some problem with the slack adjuster, or we've got excessive wear in the S-cam bushings, or the splines are loose. There's wear in the splines. There is something else wrong. So not automatically the slack adjuster being the problem. It could be we could have other things that do that. So if we are continually having to adjust an automatic slack adjuster, there is a problem somewhere in the system.